All right, hello there, welcome back. We are at the CCW UK Summit. I'm joined here by Paul Atkins, Shane Lynn and Paul Cuglietta. Simplyhealth, EdgeTier. For those of you that have recently been tuning into the VOX podcast, you'll recognise Shane's voice. And so we're here going to talk a little bit about AI and CX. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Fantastic.
All right, cool. Let's start with you, Paul. Can you give us a bit of a lay of the land at Simplyhealth? Where are you leveraging AI in CX currently?
Yeah, so we've got a few projects and initiatives across the piece at the moment. So we're looking at chatbots, obviously, which I think a lot of people are doing, and how AI can leverage that digital interaction. We're using email replies, which has got some AI capability in it, and in a big way, we're leveraging voice AI at the moment with working with a company called PolyAI on that, and that is moving into the generative space where we've just previously been intent-led, so we're right in the middle of a juicy project getting that off the ground at the moment. So lots of stuff going on across the piece.
Nice. Shout out to PolyAI, also recent guest on the podcast, so check that out if you haven't already. So Shane, you work with lots of different companies in the kind of CX space. Can you share a little bit about some of the trends you're seeing and observing and how teams are leveraging AI today?
Absolutely. So from our perspective, we're really focused on what we can do with the conversations that are happening and how we can use that data to improve business decisions. And I think at EdgeTier, we've really seen the hunger for those kind of insights rise over time. It's how can we learn what customers are telling us every day to improve our processes, to improve our policies, to reduce friction, to improve our agent performance. And AI has just exploded in terms of its capability in that area. I mean, computers can understand text in a way they just couldn't before. So we're seeing a ton of use cases in automated QA, in agentic analysis of data, using almost agentic data scientists that are scurrying their way through your data while you're sleeping, and then real-time alerting, multilingual understanding. That's happening across every industry that we work in. So massive in Europe at the moment.
Nice. And kind of like the challenge, I suppose, so for you, Paul, the challenge that I kind of see is that, you know, the data that you get, it sounds a bit harsh to call it data, but the conversations that you're having with end customers, all of those conversations being able to be kind of analysed, insights gathered and all that kind of stuff is fine technically, but it's not really a technical problem, because if you learn something, that needs to go to some other part of the business for it to be actually actioned. So I wonder if you can share a little bit about, beyond the technology, how do you kind of take something like conversational intelligence, generate the insights, but then do something with it?
Yeah, great question, Kane. Thank you. So at Simplyhealth, we do look at the data. We don't really make a decision without looking at the data, and we use that to essentially form a prioritization funnel into what goes in to improve the customer experience, whether that be an improvement in the journey or some negative feedback that we might have received. But essentially, we take all the information and all the data, funnel it through an optimization team, headed up by Paul, and then funnel it through, into a prioritization method so that we can actually prioritize the right things and fix the right things. So it's not just a technical thing, we're actually making a difference to the customer journey.
Brilliant. And usually AI initiatives are not without some kind of challenge. What can you share about some of the challenges that you've faced and how crucially you've overcome them?
Yeah, so that's a bit of an understatement, right? I think what the thing about AI is that it feels great conceptually, and leaders are bought into, come on, we've got to do some AI stuff, right? And I think the big challenge is actually making it a reality and fixing a business problem. So I think what we've overcome is actually being able to harness what's out there and what we're able to deploy rather quickly on smaller business cases, and then scale that out and almost organically absorb extra functionality and capability, and add and almost embellish the ROI that you're getting on the small business case to the big business case. So for example, with the work we've been doing with PolyAI and moving to their generative platform, we started with 5% of interactions, problem solved, bugged, fixed, did all that good stuff and moved up to 10%. We're now currently at 50%, but that's been a bit of a slow burn because we wanted to make sure that we get it right, because crucially you get one chance with customers to, especially in the voice channel with AI, to deploy that in the right way. So I think actually the big thing is starting small, type business case, and learn iteratively, and don't be afraid to put the brakes on if things aren't quite right. I think that's kind of one of the key messages I'd get across there to people.
Nice.
Thank you.
Anything to add on that, gents, or not?
Yeah, I think Paul said it right there. And I think I don't want to be the anti-AI bandwagon, but there's definitely a lot of hype there that I think has built up some slightly unrealistic expectations. So, we obviously run the conversational analytics for a ton of contact centers across Europe and the US in loads of languages. And we see constant frustration from people about the pace of rollout for automation and AI chatbots. But the reality is, and improvements in general, but it is it's a Pareto chart of taking out each piece, as Paul said, bit by bit, and it takes a long time. But I do think marketing is probably slightly ahead in the world where everyone thinks they can kind of turn on a magic AI agent and it will just suddenly act like a human employee and solve all your problems. And that is absolutely not the case. It's still, get it live, get the API integrations right, make sure the data is right, then work on your prompting, your knowledge base management. There's real work there that's a full-time job for a whole team. And it's not to be sniffed at that you can kind of go, okay, we're putting XYZ agent live and now resolution rate is 70%. That's just not the reality.
Yeah, can I just build on that ever so slightly? One of the key words I've heard at the CCW Summit this year is about balance between the human and the technology. And something that I'm really proud of at Simplyhealth is that I think we've got the balance right, or certainly to date we've had the balance right. And clearly that's always evolving and moving forward. But getting the balance right about how to use AI, but also how to use the human in the loop. We've been really conscious to keep a human in the loop in the majority of our AI cases, and that's paid dividends. So the AI is there to support you as an agent or an advisor to give the best service to the customer. It's not to replace you, but it is to remove those low-value transactional queries. But getting the balance right between the technology and the human has been the key for us.
Fantastic. Two more questions, one each, for each of you rather. Where do you think, maybe we'll start with you, Paul, and go this way, and then we'll go back that way. What do you think in terms of in AI and CX today, where do you think that the narrative is overhyped? Where are we kind of like blowing things a bit out of proportion, do you think?
I think it's overhyped. It's probably going to be a vague answer, but it's in a general term, everyone is talking about AI. Everyone's got to be using it. It's absolutely everywhere. And that in itself is the hype. And the thing is, I think you need to distill that down to something that's going to work for you in your organization. Every company and every leadership are different. What's right for us at Simplyhealth will be very different for another company. So we're using AI because we want to, and because we know it fits for what we want to do. So I think you've got to kind of, you've got to get through all that hype and all that noise and think, okay, well, what's actually going to work for us strategically, now and in the future.
Nice. Shane, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of hype, and as there is with all massive leaps in technological capability, and I think some of that hype is warranted. I think we have entered a new world where this technology will be commonplace. I don't think there's a world in which, in 5 years' time, the best customer experience organizations aren't using technology to both automate simple things as well as digest their data and look through it. That's just without question. This is useful technology. It's not overhyped in terms of its usefulness, but I do think, as with all things, we will overestimate what will happen in 1 year and underestimate what will happen in 10 years. But I think the one narrative that keeps coming up is that, there'll be no jobs and everything's going to be automated. That was said when IVRs were invented. It was said when the ATM was invented. It was said when the first chatbot came out. I think it's impactful, but there will always be space for human-to-human connection in the contact center. And when people are in an emotional stage with working with companies like Simplyhealth, or they need to speak to a human, it will always be important to have a human at the end. And I think that's not going away anytime soon.
And I think as we step into the realms of agentic AI now and the capability to take action on a customer's behalf or on an organization's behalf, I think we've got to be really careful that we keep customer journey management at the forefront of what we do. So we're looking at an end-to-end journey and understanding how AI can accent that journey and improve efficiency within that journey without detracting from the human elements of an experience that a customer wants. And actually, it's really easy to go, oh, AI can do that now, that whole journey, take action. But actually, organizations should be questioning, well, where do I want human interaction to exist in that journey? And actually, how can I accent what is a really humane process of interacting with a customer? Where do I want to accent that with AI? And where do I want to remove wasted process with AI, as opposed to the blanket, agentic AI can do that? Well, can it do that, or do you want it to do that in its entirety, or do you want it to do the tough bits or the transactional bits of that, but you still want to maintain kind of great customer experience and the human element of that too?
That's a good point. I think what that makes me think about, which is a good opportunity for CX leaders, is to step back rather than the default, which has always been the case, which is the default is we just have to throw people at it. I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is more around let's actually plan where we're best leveraging people, where we're best leveraging AI, and therefore, ideally get the best of both worlds type of thing. Maybe we'll go way back around again. Where do you think AI is underhyped? What's not being spoke about that has great value, do you think, at the moment?
Well, I think kind of we've moved away a little bit from LLM and sentiment analysis in a way, but actually we've proven over the last year or so working with EdgeTier that actually the insights that we can generate from conversational analytics are still as important as ever, and being able to plug and almost quantify the qualitative is still as important as anything we've been doing, and actually building an ecosystem around that data using tools like Spotlight and being able to kind of deeply analyze what customers are saying in the moment on a day-to-day basis and track and measure that, and then package that into things that we want to change with product, things that we want to change digitally and deploy AI. I think it's still so crucial. It's the genesis of building out customer journeys and effective customer journeys. And I think actually we're in danger of moving into the space of actually looking at solutions and AI solutions rather than where AI can help us drive out a problem statement. So we're kind of thinking at this end as opposed to where we want to generate problem statements and generate business cases and have the voice of the customer represented in that process. I think that's still underhyped and undervalued.
Brilliant. What do you think, Shane? What's underhyped at the moment?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I think the hype is so big in some ways. From another, I would agree with Paul. I think the quote-unquote boring work of going through the insights in your conversations and incrementally improving your customer experience remains important and remains a little bit less sexy than the magic AI tool. There's still an aspect of speaking to the agents that are on the floor, going through conversations with AI and with not. Like AI will spot where there's problems, but you still end up with a conversation that happened with a person on the other end and an agent or a bot that you need to go through and pick out where are our policies and processes wrong. And that's not sexy AI work. AI will make it, extremely effective, and you can find things much faster, and you won't spend as much time, going through Excel sheets. But in the end, you're in meetings making incremental changes to the business. Yeah. And I think that can be massively impactful, but it's like underhyped. No one talks about it, but that's the real work that's being done. The other piece I would say is that I think people underestimate how fast AI models are changing, and I think token costs will reduce further, and I think token speed will actually increase massively. So I think we're all used to the idea of, press the button on the chatbot, watch the spinny thing, see an answer. That's going to change, and like in a few years, you'll press enter, and the answer will be generated before you even can look at the screen. And the impact that will have across how much we can analyze, generate, respond to, changes the scene again. There's not the waiting time that you're used to with AI is going to go away. And it will permeate every bit of technology we have. It'll just, the word AI will go away and just be kind of, or will become more overused, but it'll just become software, and we'll just expect it in everything we do. So I think that's the way it's going to go.
Nice. Final word with you, Paul. Where is it underhyped?
Yeah, I agree with both gents, really. I'll give a slightly different answer, though. I think internally, how you operate within the business is underhyped. And what I mean by that is how much a business is using AI internally to free up time so you can spend time on more complex tasks and actually get people in the right place to be delivering for your customers. I still attend meetings where people don't use the transcription. and then don't then get a summary of the notes made up, and they're still writing up their notes or writing up a presentation. And you think you need to move forward, because if we can free up time internally, then we can reinvest that time into other areas. So I think that's probably an area that is slightly underhyped, which I think we can all get a bit better at.
Very good. Nice one. Thank you so much, gents. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Nice one.
Thank you.
Cool.